Hey and welcome, I'm Hammeh and it's E3 2018 time. It's the largest gaming event in the world where many of the biggest publishers announce new titles, consoles and more for the years ahead. Alongside Overwatch, I'm a huge gamer and obviously story and lore-based games are some of my favourites. So Bioware's Anthem is a game I'm hugely interested in. Overwatch fans, the latest Overwatch videos are in the playlist below and I'll be back to Overwatch on Monday. Do give this a go and let me know what you think though, I'd really love to hear your thoughts. This game is going to be awesome. In this video I'm going to share more about the up to 4-person jetpack and exosuit, or Javelin as they're known game, coming out February next year in 2019, that's been confirmed, rounding up all the news about what we do in the game, the lore and story we know so far, and more information on what Anthem will actually be. Timecodes as always are in the description below if you want to skip. So caveat emptor Bioware, I am a Bioware fan, but to introduce Anthem I've been playing their games for at least 15 years, since Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, if not longer, and the studio has a great heritage of things such as Dragon Age, you might be familiar with Mass Effect, Jade Empire. It's had slightly tougher times as of late due to the challenges of the development of Mass Effect Andromeda and the initial reception that game received. Anthem has just had a great showing at E3, loads of press articles and videos are out there from various publications who were invited to a behind the scenes look at Bioware not too long ago. Now there's an IGN video as well as a Game Informer cover article that have greater extra information, as well as what was shared in EA's EA Play show just now at E3 2018, so I'm going to round these all up for you now. So what is the setting and story of Anthem? Well, I'm going to do a separate video on this, but as a quick roundup, gods known as Shapers have used huge world-changing technology to try and control a force called the Anthem of Creation in the past on this planet that the game is set on. Now it does have a name, we are not being told it yet, but for some reason these gods then just left, the Shapers left, and for reasons that we don't know, their work is kind of half complete and all of their technology and devices have been left behind. This technology, these devices litter the landscape and cause chaos randomly, it seems, everything from storms through to genetic mutations of creatures that inhabit the planet, as well as creatures existing that have just been left behind apparently and descended from things made by the Shapers, which are slightly dangerous, shall we say. Daily life for humanity on the planet is a constant struggle, and into this steps you. Now, freelancers are uniquely qualified and able in terms of piloting the exosuits known as Javelins. You require these to go and survive out in the world. The world is dangerous. It will eat you up and swallow you if you're not careful, and you need Javelins to be able to do it. A little bit more on Javelins and the different types in a second. The main plot of the game revolves around an emerging threat from a group known as the Dominion. Now they are trying to harness Shaper technology for their own good, and they will stop at nothing to do it. You need to stop them. And the reason that you need to do this is because they're putting the survival of the general planet, of humanity on the planet in general, at risk. Bioware have said that there's no good and bad here, there are just shades of grey. Now apparently this is not Earth, and on the planet of Anthem there's also another group called the Scars who are also after this technology. So in the main story of Anthem you'll be fighting the Dominion to keep this technology safe, and fighting the very planet and the inherent Shaper forces and technology and remnants of the Shapers themselves, and trying to unpiece the mysteries of what happened on the planet and why. Now humanity has been established on this planet for a while, but this is not a technology or a civilization of microchips and of mass production. Javelins are handcrafted from materials available on this world. And speaking of javelins that you suit up with, there are 4 different types that have been talked about initially, although apparently there are more. There is the Ranger, the Colossus, the Storm, and the Interceptor. Now the Ranger is kind of a bit of a jack of all trades, can do quite a few different things well. The Colossus is more of a tank with access to heavy weaponry, certainly going to be taking some damage. The Storm, or affectionately known by the community over the last year since Anthem's reveal as the Technomancer, is more of a magical force type. I'm not going to say magic wielding kind of glass cannon type class, can throw out a lot of damage but is going to be a little bit squishy as well. And finally the Interceptor, which hasn't been talked about very much by Bioware at the moment, they're saving that back, but it seems to be a light, quite fast, quite agile suit. So what will you be doing in all of these different suits? Well, in terms of gameplay, there seem to be a few different sections that have been called out in the Game Informer article amongst others. There is kind of a free play, you out in the world, going, exploring, trying to get materials, taking out creatures and forces that are just lying around the landscape, some small minor tasks and quests and things like that, but this feels like the in-between, the exploring, the kind of waiting before you're jumping into other activities, apparently, according to Game Informer. The world is apparently large and seamless, which is exciting, with no loading between zones, and different area types to explore. Now in Anthem, of course, because you're in a javelin and exosuit, you can be in the sky, you can be walking on the land, and we've seen several pieces of footage where you can actually go underwater. You can then jet down into caves and kind of go submersed and explore underneath. So there's a lot of verticality to this world and maps that you might not see in other places, as well as just the combat elements of you flying around, which seems pretty cool to me. When you're not out and about in this world, you have a strider, which is kind of your forward operations base that you can change javelins in, you can stay out in the world in and go and use as a forward base. But there's also a hub, at least one called Fort Tarsus, that we saw in the trailer of 2017 and has been talked about more here. There are NPCs there that will give you missions and quests, and I'm sure some of those will move the story on, and more on the purpose of Tarsus in a bit. Now, there are going to be raids on the higher end of the sort of challenge spectrum, outside of sort of quests and what Bioware are calling the critical path, so like the main story basically. Apparently these are called strongholds. They are going to be instances that need more teamwork, perhaps better gear to overcome. Now, we've not been shown any of this yet. These are apparently going to be huge bosses, diverse encounters. You're going to need specific roles in different parties and different tactics, and apparently they will have harder versions with better rewards, so similar to, of course, the Destiny style mechanic. You can even say World of Warcraft, anything where you're raiding repeating content, like the Mythic Plus in World of Warcraft, like the Nightfall Strikes and things in Destiny. There's going to be harder versions that you can access. In terms of how you can drop in and drop out, you can apparently solo Anthem, but Bioware say that the experience is designed for 4 players. Now, you can team up with people just for specific activities, and they can drop out of your party afterwards. You can do it with friends. You can issue something called a contract when you're in a group, saying that you've got open slots in your party for people to come, do one activity with you and then go, so you're not obligated to stay in groups with people. In terms of how different levels work together, regardless of power level apparently, any players can team up and start fighting. It'll feel apparently, quote, like it's the same amount of damage, according to a quote from a dev on the Game Informer article, but the difference will be that if you are a higher level character, you'll have a greater variety of gear at your disposal. Perhaps you're going to be more efficient, maybe you've got more customization options in your loadout and you can use more things rather than maybe doing more damage. So good news for co-op groups of friends who maybe will get a bit behind, maybe will get a bit ahead in terms of leveling. You can just come together and play, and of course, providing you don't mind a little story spoiler perhaps, if it's a story mission later in the game, you'll be able to play together effectively. So how can you customize your javelins? Well, you have a locked-in melee attack apparently, defensive maneuvers and ultimates, but you can also equip 2 weapons along with 2 pieces of gear, apparently according to the Game Informer article, a category that has things like explosives, energy blasts and a whole bunch more, because javelins have access to specific different arsenals, like for example the Ranger can use cryo grenades, but only the Colossus can use heavy weapons because that's a tanky heavy class. You also have apparently a variety of options within each type of javelin, meaning that you can change your loadouts to specialise in certain weapons or tactics depending on what you're up to in a particular mission or situation. The Game Informer article in the description below, it's linked there if you want to go have a look, and please do, it's a great piece, talks about having a Ranger with a cryo grenade. That cryo grenade could then send out additional shockwaves from enemies who are killed while frozen. Very interesting. We've also seen this in the various gameplays shown. We saw the Colossus in the E3 2017 trailer use a mortar in this most recent piece of gameplay that we've seen. We've also seen Colossus using a flamethrower, for example, so just different weapons in a slot. As for progression in the game, well, you improve yourself, your character, but apparently the longer piece of progression, according to Mark Dyer of Bioware, is actually improving your javelin. Your pilot does gain skills that can be used in any javelin. For example, there is an overheat mechanic. The booster jets on your javelins will overheat if you use them too much, but you can get a pilot skill that increases the amount of time that you can stay airborne. So there are little tweaks you can do on the pilot level, but there are also changes in your suits that you can tweak. Outside of progression, well, cosmetic progression now a hot topic, particularly with EA and EA Studios, due to, of course, the DICE of Star Wars Battlefront 2 pay-to-win multiplayer loot box scenario that of course had the internet up in arms, as well as fans of the game. Now, Bioware made this big announcement. You can buy specific cosmetics, there are no loot boxes, there is no gameplay progression tied to loot boxes. Fantastic. I, for one, absolutely love that. I don't mind cosmetics personally if I can buy them directly and I can see how much I'm buying them for. Not a massive fan of loot boxes. There are better and worse ways of doing loot boxes, so really happy with this news. Do let me know what you think of all of this so far, by the way, in the comments below. And if you'd like to hear more about Anthem Lore particularly I'm going to focus on, as well as gameplay and more, do throw a subscribe and like this video too. It really helps me out. Finally, coming back to a note on how story is going to work in the game, and this has been stressed by Bioware because it is a departure game-wise from their traditional single-player experiences, with the exception of their work on, of course, Star Wars The Old Republic, if you've played that MMO on PC, which I actually really enjoy, by the way. Now, we've had a lot told to us about Fort Tarsus. This is a hub for the story, and Bioware have said that when you're out in the world, you are with your friends and you are playing together. Now, when you come back to Tarsus, that is a single instance to you. So your story, the decisions that you make and the consequences that may occur from any decisions that you make happen within Fort Tarsus. So your story is kept permanent and specific to you from within the Fort Tarsus hub. Now, when you go out into the world, you're playing with your friends and doing stuff out in the world. Now, they didn't mention about, for example, emerging story. I think that there's going to be in this big lush world, and it looks absolutely fantastic to me so far. Things, I'm not going to say specifically like Mass Effect or indeed Dragon Age, but I think there's going to be the equivalent of data pads and audio logs and things out there, as well as, who knows, perhaps other cool kinds of story. I'd love to see if there's NPCs and things out there in the world that you can talk to that will let you piece together the mystery of why the Shapers left, what were they trying to do, and why is the planet of Anthem that we are on in the state that it is. I really can't wait to explore all that. There's actually loads more lore and story stuff discussed in different places. I'm going to put that together in a separate video, so keep an eye out for that on this channel pretty soon. Thanks so much for tuning in. There's a quick roundup of all things Anthem that we've learned so far. I'm sure there's going to be a bunch more in E3 in the coming months. If you like this video, please do throw a like, subscribe, comment below with what you think of the game, what you think it looks like. Are you liking the sound of this? Are you a Bioware fan? Have you played Dragon Age and Mass Effect? Do you think this is going to be a cup of tea? I love my shooters. I love my single player games with rich lore and story. I may try some more of it on this channel. I may start a new channel. I'll see how I go, but I'd love to hear your thoughts as to what you think of this video and this game in the comments. Cheers for tuning in. I've been Hammeh. Take it easy, freelancers.